promoting and supporting some of the cornerstones of the American experience. It's all about family, faith, and freedom. Now let's get back to the Curtis Report with your host, Barry Curtis.
Thanks. Welcome back to the Curtis Report. Appreciate you joining us back. As always, you can follow along with this at thecurtisinitiative.com or thecurtisreport.com. We'll take you to the same site. You can view their photos and bios of former guests, current guests, and future guests we'll have on the show, as well as articles I may have written for different newspapers, as well as contributing editors and folks who have written for our site specifically are there at the Curtis Report or CurtisInitiative.com. Appreciate you, Facebook folks. Love you to death. Thanks. Check out the Curtis Report on Facebook. A lively discussion, always a good time to be had, politically speaking, there at the Curtis Report on Facebook. Also, because we talk about family, faith, and freedom, check out Son of Man Bible Study. I think you may even have eclipsed the number of people on Curtis Report on Facebook, but Son of Man Bible Study on Facebook, check that out. We focus on faith in that particular group. Really interesting. We have a constant issues of prayer, and we pray for individuals and folks. And check out Son of Man Bible Study group on Facebook. Everyone is welcome to check that out there. 25 years old. I'm much older than that. I'm much older than 25. Many of you may be too. If you can just for a moment, reflect, think about being 25. I don't know that I can. I can remember certain events perhaps in my life when I was 25, and I do have a point to this, folks. I can remember certain events in my life when I was 25, but just to reflect back on what it means to be 25. New York City, NYPD, New York City's finest, lost a hero this week. 25-year-old Officer Brian Moore was shot last week and he died today. 25 years old. Was shot in the face. Lingered on for a few days and died of his injuries today. Police officer. Went through the academy in NYPD. Was serving with citizens of the city of New York when he was murdered. 25 years old. And I have to think. 25 years old. Before we get into the other specific stuff, the horrific part of this thing, which we're not going to dwell on the horrific part. There's much more of a blessing in this thing and the lesson in this thing. But just think at 25. At 25, boy, I had the whole world in my hand. There was nothing I couldn't do. I was excited. I was thrilled. At 25, you may be just finishing up school, getting your first job, perhaps starting a family, truly coming into, for us guys, manhood. I mean, in the sense of perhaps by 25, some significant independence. Brian Moore was 25. It's just a horrible day, said a tearful female off-duty cop as she left a pot of red carnations and blue balloons at the 25-year-old's home. New York City Commissioner Bill Bratton was seen entering Jamaica Hospital. That's where he died. As news of Moore's death surfaced, and around the same time, two other cops also went in, one carrying a pair of shiny shoes and the other a police dress uniform. That's what they got to bury him in. 25. Commissioner Bratton really hailed Moore. He says, as one of the many cops do a great job, often with great valor. He went on to say, it's with great regret and sadness that we announced the passing of a New York City police officer, Brian Moore. Shield number 469. New York City police officer, hero of the city, killed in the line of duty, Brian Moore. Get this. In his very brief career, less than 5 years on the force. So he was 25, joined the force at 25 years in the force. Already somewhat of a seasoned person, 25. Bragg went on to say that in his brief career, he had already proved himself to be an exceptional young officer. In that career, he had made over 150 arrests, protecting and serving the citizens of this city. That's the city of New York. Get this man, this remarkable young man, he had already received 2 exceptional police service medals and 2 meritorious police service medals. Braden went on to add that we don't give them easy. This young man had already proven himself. Pat Lynch, the police union chief, made a poignant comment. He said that now we're going to take part in a sad tradition. This is Pat Lynch, police union chief. He says that's carrying a cop's casket out of a hospital. Moore's body was taken from the hospital in the ESU truck as hundreds of cops stood outside and saluted. This part here. A woman weeping, who believed to be a relative, reached out and tried to touch the truck, while a crying man, also appearing to be family, simply saluted. This young hero, this 25-year-old officer, decorated, already with 150 arrests, somewhat of a veteran already. The truck accompanied by a full police escort to the morgue on First Avenue and 28th Street there in Manhattan, where the cold, hard reality of an autopsy was conducted. Pat Lynch, that's the police union, said that while the entire force is in mourning, cops will still be hitting the beat to keep the city safe. Isn't that something? You have to mourn one of your fallen comrades and go out and do your job. Pat went on to say this: they may have sadness in their eyes, but they have bravery in their hearts. Wow, and they're good officers. After Moore was taken off life support and died, Queens prosecutors upgraded the charges against the suspect to first-degree murder, the guy who shot him. There was little hope for Moore since he was shot in the forehead. Get this: the bullet exiting the back of his neck, tearing through his brainstem, sources say. I don't like generally the morbid part, but it's important to get the story. During emergency surgery, Moore had to have half of his brain removed. So even if he had survived, he would have been completely incapacitated. Moore comes from a line of meritorious servicemen. Moore's dad, retired from New York City Police Department, Sergeant Raymond Moore, said he was devastated. Grieving neighbors began putting up blue bunting on their own houses, and New York City Police Department blue ribbons on their mailboxes along the street after learning of Moore's death. The elementary school down the block from Moore's 105th precinct in Queens, Public School 33, also hung blue ribbons on the fence, and about 30 teachers and staff wearing a lot of blue handed out blue ribbons to passersby. The whole community is crushed, said Vincent Pensato, who lives near the Moores. My son went to school with Brian, he added. He had a great life ahead of him. And bam, in the blink of an eye, it's over. It's not fair. We have to learn from this. Another tearful woman who drove up to the family's home and left a bouquet of flowers said he took a bullet for the whole neighborhood. Off-duty Officer Danny Roberts, 38, who worked with Moore at the 105th precinct, dropped off a bouquet of yellow and white mums at the house. It's terrible what happened to Brian. It can happen to any of us at any time, he said. We're all thinking of Brian today. Anything that family needs, the Moores, the NYPD is always there for their support. Meanwhile, in the business of the murder investigation, they found the gun they believed to be used by Moore's shooting. They also are doing ballistic tests on the silver revolver, which has a 2-inch barrel and was found in the backyard next to where the arrest was Saturday night. This Blackwell individual, Demetrius Blackwell, is accused of gunning down Moore after the cop and his partner stopped him because he was suspiciously fidgeting with something in his waistband. Get this. This is how it went down. Do you have something in your waistband? That's what Moore said. Moore, the cop, they were off-duty cop sitting in the car, saw him fidgeting with something in his waistband in a very tough neighborhood. This is what cops do. Moore said, do you have something in your waistband? This is Brian Moore, the cop who was shot in the head. He said to the suspect, do you have something in your waistband. That's what he said to Blackwell while sitting in the car. It was an unmarked car he was sitting in. Do you have something in your waistband? Moore said to the suspect. The suspect, Blackwell. Blackwell answered, yeah, I got something, and snarled back. Blackwell then whipped out a handgun and fired at the cops at least 3 times. Brian Moore, the cop, was hit at least once. His partner, Eric Jansen, was not struck. 2 bullets have been recovered from the scene, sources said, as the hospital prepared for its 3rd cop funeral in 5 months. Lots of tributes to the dead officer poured in. Governor Cuomo of New York said that the shooting of Officer Brian Moore over the weekend was a deplorable act of violence that has robbed New York of one of its finest. President Obama said, cops deserve our gratitude and our prayers, not just today, but every day. They've got a tough job. Mayor de Blasio said that for 5 years, Brian served with distinction and put his life on the line each day to keep us safe. On Saturday, he made the ultimate sacrifice in service to the people of New York City. Brian Moore, hero, dead at the age of 25. There are heroes in the world. Never let anyone tell you there aren't. There are heroes in the world. Brian Moore, job well done, sir. Job well done.